Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Joseph Ho in Whitehorse. Unionized workers at the Fort Simpson Housing Authority gave strike notice this week. They could walk off the job as early as Tuesday if they don't reach an agreement. A union representative says that could lead to service delays. Nadir Hashmi breaks down what this could mean for residents.
Wages are a main concern in the ongoing negotiation. A union spokesperson, Josie Ann, says wages are low due to the lack of territorial funding to the housing authority. And if the strike happens, residents should expect delays. But she says health and safety services will still be provided, including unit repairs needed before winter.
This work, of course, will happen, but it will happen slower, and it will happen under that essential services agreement.
Spirito says the workers provide services to over 100 housing units. These are located in Fort Simpson, Jean Marie River, Sambake, Nahanni Butte, and Wrigley. CBC News reached out to the Fort Simpson Housing Authority, who said they have no comment on the strike notice. The union also delivered a petition last Friday to Nahanade MLA Shane Thompson. Spirito says more than 200 Fort Simpson residents and supporters signed the petition, and it later was passed by Thompson to the Minister of Housing. MLA Thompson says he's optimistic.
Hopefully there won't be a strike on October 1st, but, that's part of the negotiating process. There's a strike notice and then at the last minute maybe, then the deal's made.
The union represents 7 workers and hopes to reach a deal with the housing authority before Tuesday. Nadir Hashmi, CBC News, Yellowknife.
2 years ago, there was a push to change the names of a group of islands in Nunavut. The islands were named after an offensive word for Indigenous women. But as Samuel Watt reports, the territorial government is still working to drop the S word.
As an Inuk woman, Madeline Dagencourt has been called this racial slur, which is sometimes heard down south.
It's derogatory. I mean, my firstborn daughter is half First Nations.
For clarity, that word is spelled S-Q-U-A-W. It's currently used as official place names in 15 locations across the country, including a group of islands just 40 kilometres away from Dagencourt's home in Iqaluit. She says it's not hard work to change it. After all, she got this street name in Apex renamed within a day.
Changing a name is straightforward paperwork.
Nunavut's Culture and Heritage Department says it is a priority. In its 2024 to 26 business plan, it plans to officially revise derogatory place names next year. It's identified 15 across the country. They include words like Eskimo, savage, slave, and the other S word.
It has been a priority, but we're making it a priority even more so since we have the resources to tackle and work on the progress.
Iqaluit Senior MLA Janet Petzelak-Brewster brought up the issue in the legislature in 2022. She agrees proper consultations do take time, but that's government.
I've learned even more in the last few years how slowly the cogs in the wheels of government change.
As for the other offensive place names across the country, the Canadian Geographic Names Database states that there is ongoing work to address that. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Imperial Oil was a contentious topic at the Sawtooth Secretariat Assembly. The company has said it could close before 2026 if replacement of a key pipe beneath the Mackenzie River is delayed. But the Sawtooth Secretariat directors voted in favor of referring the project to an environmental assessment. That would likely hold up work. The vote was carried with 4 in favor, 2 against, and 1 abstaining. Many in Fort Good Hope raised concerns living downstream from Imperial. They called for more involvement in environmental regulations. Ethel Blondin Andrew lives in Norman Wells. She's a former chair of Sawtooth Secretariat Incorporated. She's also a former member of Parliament.
I think Imperial Oil is fear-mongering. I think they are insulting the Indigenous leadership from the Sawtooth by implying that they don't know the regulatory deadlines.
Now, not everyone felt the same. John Lewison lives in Fort Good Hope. He worked at Imperial Oil on and off for 40 years. He says they do have safety regulations in place to protect the environment.
Even a pint or a cup of fuel that spill, report it.
It's reported, it's cleaned up. Right?
So it's changed. It really changed. I can understand their concern, but you have to be there to see what I'm talking about.
The environmental assessment was officially issued this week. Imperial Oil says it is working to fully understand the impact of this decision. The company says it is working on next steps. The Yukon's municipal election is in 3 weeks. 8 communities will choose their mayor and council. Yesterday was the deadline for candidates to step forward. Katrin Pilkington has more.
I'm here at Whitehorse City Hall. Right behind me are the City Council chambers, where soon a brand new mayor and council will begin 4-year terms. Yesterday, 23 people threw their hat in the ring right here. Only 2 of the candidates are incumbent Whitehorse councillors. 7 other municipalities are also hosting an election. In Mayo, Trevor Ellis was acclaimed and will continue to serve as mayor, so that community will only elect councillors. Dawson City, Haines Junction, Faro, Watson Lake, Teslin, and Carmacks will all elect full slates of mayors and councils. Over the next few weeks, candidates will campaign to prove that they deserve to represent their communities. Election Day is October 17th. Katrin Pilkington, CBC News, Whitehorse.
A Yukon paleontologist is being honored with a prestigious award for his fossil collection. Grant Zazula is winner of this year's Bruce Naylor Award. The award is from the Alliance of Natural History Museums of Canada. It's to recognize Zazula's incredible collection of Ice Age vertebrate fossils. It's the largest in Arctic North America. Zazula says he is thrilled by the recognition. He highlights the importance of studying the Ice Age to better understand issues like climate change.
It feels really great. You know, you do this work sometimes and you kind of feel like a nerd doing science, and but you realize that you know, this kind of work isn't done alone. And I think for me, it's really given me an opportunity to reflect on all the amazing people and opportunities that I've had to do this kind of work in the Yukon, and what a great place to do this kind of research the Yukon is. Well, you know, the Ice Age is a fascinating time because it's really about the development of the modern world. Like, the Ice Age was just yesterday. You know, only 10,000 years ago, we had all these extinctions. And then after the extinctions of mammoths and saber-toothed cats, we had today's animals. So that transition between the Ice Age world and the world that we have today and what's happening now and in the future is a really important it's a really important field of study to understand and place climate change in context of some historical past. So and Yukon is really the best place in maybe the world to do this kind of work. We have a chance to work with placer gold miners out in the Klondike. We work with them really closely collecting fossils, but also I think the connection between First Nations people and the land here is so strong, and these fossils are all part of that land, part of their history. And being able to do paleontology in collaboration with First Nation communities and especially youth is such an empowering way for them to be able to access Western science in ways that are approachable, because sometimes, you know, science can be pretty intimidating, right? So being able to do this work in collaboration with First Nations people is really important to me, and I really hope it can inspire young Indigenous youth to one day pursue careers in science and to look at their world in a different way, and for me, but it's also a learning experience for me. You know, whenever I go out and do these kind of projects with First Nation communities, I learn a lot. I learn so much because they have a different way of looking at the past and looking at the land that I do. So bringing these worlds of Western science and Indigenous ways of knowing to me, especially over the last few years with our baby mammoth, Nuncho Ga, it's been so important and so exciting to me.
He was completely unaccountable.
Prince Andrew never had somebody say the word no.
The Queen adored him more than anybody else.
This whole story is about the abuse of power.
We've got emails, we've got photographs, we've got witnesses.
Wow. Ordinary people turn a small investment into big bucks.
I'm in it to win it.
Do you think Mummy and Daddy are going to double their money? That's what I thought.
Why, hello.
You want it? I got it.
This is so cool.
Focus, focus, focus.
Here we go.
Ooh, imagine how good the TV's gonna look now.
Good God!
This is incredible.
Did you know this?
As if.
Could the pressure be any higher?
Every week, the issues that matter to Canadians.
Cost of living hurts everybody.
Connecting politics to people.
Win, win, win.
We are not going back.
Sundays, join me for Rosemary Barton Live.
It makes sense that they get a larger share, or does it?
Welcome to the Greenbelt.
All of this, just single detached homes?
Yes.
What do we know? I think we can explain.
About that with Andrew Chang. Watch free on CBC Gem.
It's got to come from the heart.
I will cry. They're so together.
How much more connected do you want to be?
See you there.
Guess what? Pinch me. Yes!
It's that time of year again. Next week is Fat Bear Week. It's an annual tournament-style competition put on by the Katmai National Park and Preserve in Alaska. People are invited to vote for the fattest bear of the year before hibernation. Sarah Bruce is a visual information specialist with the Katmai National Park and Preserve. Hello, Sarah. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So first off, why do you hold Fat Bear Week?
Yeah, it's a way to kind of celebrate the hard work these bears have done all summer. They are bulking up from middle of June all the way until now, even later than now into October, to bulk up for hibernation. So it's a way to get folks involved in this small remote park in Alaska and see how these bears are really able to bulk up from June into September in order to prepare for hibernation. Yeah, it's a fun way to get folks involved in these bears.
Now, you track these bears over the course of several months. How much weight do they put on?
Yeah, so there's no trackers on the bears. We identify them through their markings, their shed patterns. Their ears are a really good distinguishing factor of which bear is which, because they really do change from early summer into fall. Their coats can get darker, and obviously they get much fatter. We have a scientist in the National Park Service. His name is Joel Cusick, and he has used a LiDAR technology to figure out how much these bears weigh. LiDAR takes the volumes typically of buildings, so stationary objects. Bears are not stationary, but the ones along Brooks River, they will stand in the river awaiting their salmon and stand pretty still. So we've been able to kind of capture the volume of these bears and convert that into mass. So we know that at their largest, they can weigh over 1,400 pounds.
Do we know what they're eating that allows them to bulk up like this?
Oh yeah, sockeye salmon is the whole reason we can have Fat Bear Week. Katmai National Park sits within the watershed of Bristol Bay, and Bristol Bay sockeye salmon, it's one of the most sustainable, longest standing fisheries in the world. We can get over 1 billion fish, sometimes even more. I don't know the numbers of this year's run, but sockeye salmon are super fatty. Sometimes you'll even see the bears just eating the head, so the brain area, the skin of the fish, and then if it's a female, they will eat the eggs as well, because those are the fattiest parts of the bears. So it's kind of which parts of the fish do they want to eat? Are they so hungry that they're even going to eat the flesh, or are they just going to eat that skin, head, and eggs? I've even seen bears be really picky where they can smell whether or not it's a female and only pick up the females so that they can get those eggs. So the bears can be really picky about which parts of the salmon they're eating, but the salmon make all of this possible. So they are feasting and gorging on this huge sockeye salmon run that comes up into the Brooks River and throughout the Naknek watershed, the Naknek Lake, Naknek River. And then when the salmon aren't running, they can be eating grasses, berries, really anything that they can find. But the salmon are really what make these bears super, super fat.
So let's talk about the actual competition. How many bears are in the running for Fat Bear Week?
There will be 12 adult bears in Fat Bear Week. We're wrapping up Fat Bear Junior today, which was a competition between 4 of the cubs along the river. And that voting ends today at 5 p.m. Alaska time. And then next week, starting on October 2nd, 8 a.m., you can start voting in the first round of our bracket. So 12 bears in this bracket style competition.
Can you explain how people vote?
Yeah. So you can go to fatbearweek.org and cast your vote there. You just need an email address. And you pick which bear you think is fattest in that round. So each round will be between 2 bears. You pick whichever bear you want to vote for, submit your vote, and that's how you vote.
And Sarah, it's been 10 years since Fat Bear Week launched as Fat Bear Tuesday. What do you think this tradition has done to help people appreciate these animals?
Yeah, so that started as Fat Bear Tuesday in 2014. And the original stewards of this land were the Dina-Ina, Yupik, and Alutiiq people. So they have been stewarding this land, ensuring that we have healthy salmon runs and healthy wildlife for more than 10,000 years. Having Fat Bear Week allows us to invite more people to be stewards of not only this land, but we've actually seen folks who connect with these bears be able to become stewards of the public land in their own backyards as well. So it really gives this opportunity for conservation and preservation of these lands that have hosted wildlife for thousands and thousands of years.
Well, Sarah, good luck to all the contestants. We're looking forward to seeing the winner. Thank you again for taking the time to speak with us.
Absolutely. I'm just excited that all these bears will be fat enough for the winter.
That was Sarah Bruce, a visual information specialist with the Katmai National Park and Preserve. A Yukoner has won an International Bird Photography Award with this video montage. Malcolm Boothroyd shot these pictures along the Millennium Trail in Whitehorse. They scored a gold medal in the Bird Photographer of the Year competition. Called into a world of ice, Boothroyd captured tiny little songbirds, American dippers, as they dove in and out of the ice-covered Yukon River in the dead of winter. Boothroyd says it was a challenging but rewarding experience.
I was donning my dry suit in the middle of January and wading out into the river with my underwater camera, using some of my river safety expertise to assess whether or not the ice conditions were safe to be out there on the edge and what would happen if the ice floe cracked and things like that. So it uses different parts of your mind.
Boothroyd says he's been fascinated by dippers since he was a kid. He used to be the bird columnist for CBC Yukon's morning radio show when he was 12. It was one of the species he highlighted during his time on air. Yukon Conservation Officers Services has confirmed a bear was killed last night. This was after it entered the main campus building at Yukon University. Officers heard a black bear entered the building by breaking a door and window, but was later let out by staff. When officers arrived, they killed the bear near the gymnasium because of safety concerns. Conservation officers say it's an unusual occurrence for Whitehorse, and it's not clear why the bear entered the building. They're encouraging residents to stay alert to wildlife and to report any concerns through the tip line. Construction has started on a modular home factory in Arviat. The factory is meant to produce up to 40 homes each year for northern communities. The factory would help produce single and multi-family houses. Mayor Joe Savikatak Jr. says the community is excited.
Definitely people are excited on that. It's quite the sight to see how big that thing is. When you go near it, and it's impressive. We've never seen anything this big and being built in Alberta before. So it is quite exciting.
Once assembled, the homes will be shipped across the north. Saku Investments Corporation is spearheading the project. It will hire about 40 full-time staff. Whale Cove could have 2 grocery stores next year. The community's only store burned down at the end of August. That grocery store, a co-op, has now reopened inside the local community hall. Igloolik-based Arctic Fresh has been investigating how it can improve food security in Whale Cove. The company says ever since the fire, it's been scoping out the community for a new location.
We had a feasibility study and a business plan to replicate what we have for our store in Igloolik in other communities. When we saw that Whale Cove store burnt down, our heart really went out to the community. We started talking with the community leaders, and we are actively looking at putting in a store into Whale Cove next year.
Arctic Fresh says once built, the store would be handed over to the community to manage its profits. As for the new co-op store, construction is expected to begin next year. This month, students across the country are learning more about residential schools and the importance of reconciliation. Monday marks the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. At Mulvey School in Winnipeg, one student is sharing her culture to help others learn. Felicia Adam has her story.
For Abs Keeper, dancing is how she's reclaiming her Ojibwe heritage. The drum beat and the sound of her jingle dress cones filled the library at Mulvey School.
I just love doing it, and it helps me with my healing of the stuff I've gone through. I just love doing it.
The grade 6 student began dancing almost 2 years ago, most of her knowledge self-taught.
For a 10-year-old, that's a lot of knowledge that she's taken in the last half a year, almost 2 years, and yeah, she's teaching me.
Her mother, Candace Bowman, cries every time she sees her daughter dance. She believes their ancestors would be proud.
When she dances, she just doesn't dance for herself. She dances for everybody that couldn't come home or got their culture taken away from them or wasn't allowed to learn about it.
Keepers dance, part of commemorating the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, a day important for many students.
It will help remember those kids who had to suffer through residential school.
Truth and reconciliation is very important. Like, we should always celebrate it. Always.
For Keeper, her goal is not only to continue learning about her culture, but also to continue to share and teach others about it.
It's to show my ancestors that we weren't allowed to dance and practice because they took away from us. I think it's important I dance here today on this day because to show my ancestors what I could do and what's allowed now.
She's also inviting others to learn about the tradition, saying anyone can take part no matter where they're from. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Neighborhoods were underwater and at least 33 people are dead across 4 states in the southeastern U.S. This all in the wake of Hurricane Helene. Katie Nicholson reports.
This is the part of Florida's Big Bend that was hit the hardest last night when Hurricane Helene made landfall as a Category 4 storm with those 215 km/h winds. And you can see some of the destruction here, just structures peeled apart. And you see that as you drive through this region, trees are toppled everywhere. In this particular area, that storm surge was also an issue. You can see it's still fairly flooded here. I talked to a woman down the road. She had been here since 1969. She and her husband listened to the evacuation orders when they got back today. They saw that the floodwaters had smashed through the windows of her home, and it looks like the water level came up to about 6 feet. Just about everything in her home completely destroyed. We've also noticed here a lot of search and rescue choppers. That's because Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says that a lot of people didn't listen to those evacuation orders. They need to make sure everyone is safe and accounted for. We heard from Governor Kemp in Georgia that there were fatalities coming out of the flash floods that they also experienced today, sending crews out to try and rescue people, including a first responder who apparently also died. And as this storm, this monster storm, continues north, it has also created flooding conditions in North Carolina. There are fears of more landslides. There's already been one reported landslide in North Carolina. And that whole Appalachian mountain area that connects Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee, also an area of concern. This is a monster storm, and it is not done with the U.S. quite yet. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Steinhatchee, Florida.
That is all the time we have for Northbeat tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/north. From everybody here at CBC North, thank you for spending your evenings with us this week. Monday marks the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and CBC North will be bringing you special versions of Eagle and Northbeat to honor this day. I'm Joseph Ho. Good night from Whitehorse.
Maybe you were subconsciously worried about our little threesome.
Ew!
No, I don't mean it in that same way.
You guys can move out and get an apartment together when I'm gone. Wait, did you mean it? Mom!
You're good thieves. Best in town. Thank you. It is a small town.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes your world.
All right.
Reporting from the scene onto your screens.
Dropping the 8 now. We are just approaching Gaza.
With local CBC Radio 1 Live to connect us closer to home. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want, where you want. On the CBC News app. Download for free.
Oh, imagine how good the TV's gonna look now.
And spoiler alert.
No! Don't panic.
Don't panic.
Cut to. Well, we're not cutting to.
Which ladies want to watch?
Look out! It's drama.
Oh.
I'm ready for it.
Hi, friends. Guess what?
Pinch me. Ooh. Mind blown.
Yes!
imagine how good the TV's gonna look now.
And spoiler alert.
No! Don't panic.
Don't panic.
Cut to. Well, we're not cutting to.